Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What is it that you invested thousands of hours and now is pointless? Moderated as subreddit. I know all the tricks to make a website look as good in Internet Explorer, 6s in Chrome, Safari or Opera. I feel your pain. I also know how to make emails look identical across a huge number of clients, which is actually more difficult, yet feels equally pointless. Hey now, before I actually learned the hellscape of Outlook compatibility, our app's emails in that client at best looked like scams, at worst would delete important functionality, links, generated data, etc. That said, writing email compatibility makes me feel like a coding caveman. I got a BS in biochemistry, then drove a forklift for 14 years. Now I'm an electrician. Ooh, whoop. Fellow biochem graduate. I earn $12 an hour in a lab after working in wastewater. I do budgets now. I should have never done that. There were other ways to get to medical school that I clearly couldn't pursue because I did so poorly in the undergraduate degree. Pouring one out for your pain. ATAR. Wow! I don't know whether I'm happy not to be alone or incredibly sad, knowing that there are so many of us. My best advice for anyone seeking an undergraduate degree in biology, chemistry, biosanitary, etc., is to know you will have to get an advanced degree to make anything in your field. If you love it and are passionate about the subjects, keep on keeping on because they really are fascinating. Cheers to all my fellow scientific dropouts. Somehow we survive. All y'all are reporting that back to your universities, right? Mine emails? What feels like effing 6 months like, how are you? What is your job? Please tell us so the students have something to hope for, and it's sad to hear that the people I considered as going big places are struggling that hard. I also wish college would teach you how to do a general career change, because that would be so nice to know right about now. Same. Started at $11, worked my way up and out of the analysis part of the lab, reached the highest I could get at that lab, project manager, and topped out at $18. Now my role mostly involves accounting. Props to you for driving a forklift. I was trained how to drive them in addition to condors and other lifts, and forklifts are terrifying to me. Condors, how does one learn how to fly a giant bird? Asking for a friend? I think there's a tutorial on it. It's called The Rescuers Down Under. Edit. Wow, thank you for the awards. Same, biochemistry. Did research for a year and fucking hated it. Went into software engineering like pretty much everybody else in the comments. It took me 8 years to get my chemical engineering degree. I never worked a single day as a chemical engineer. I'm a data analyst now. Reminds me of the guy that told me he had paid over $100 for an undergrad chemistry degree and that the only thing he used it for was his pool. At least he can afford a pool. Not hours per se, but lots and lots of money. When I was a kid, seeds were king. This was also back when a typical CD was like $16 at Sam Goody, etc. I'd mow lawns in my neighborhood, 4 houses on a weekend, and get $10 each, which was good for about a dozen albums a month. My parents also gave me lunch money for school, $2 a day, which I pocketed for another album a week. So basically, I sacrificed nutrition and my weekends for the entirety of my middle school, early high school years to build up a massive album collection that was the envy of all my musician friends. It was glorious. I thought for sure this would be the crown jewel of my adulthood and that I would pass them on to my kids someday. And then when the ePod iTunes came out, it was all pointless lol. I see your point, but I'm sure you discovered some really cool music from it. Plus, you had access to a big library once you could rip seeds. I bought my first seed in a whim cause of a song I heard in the radio, and if I had waited to get into music later, I would have missed out on some good tunes in my formative years. Plus, buying CDs supported the bands you liked and helped finance the music scene. It's not all in vain, my dude. I built a customer service team from the ground up to support a client's new product, became the highest rated customer service group in the entire business. One day our phones went dead, called to test the line, was routed to a different customer service team. We'd been outsourced and they didn't have the heart to tell us in advance. Minecraft. From 2011 to probably 2018, 2019, it was like, my go. to depression game. When my depression got bad, some days I'd play for 12 hours. Built a whole huge city with districts, multiple tall buildings, rail system, a mob zoo, etc. I kinda miss it sometimes. It may be pointless, but if it got you through the day, then I consider it useful to take care of yourself, even if it includes a couple hours of coping. This is the life of a geneticist. The field moves quickly with the technology and techniques, but they are all very complex and difficult to learn. More than once in my life, I have poured myself into a specialized skill to be the best in the building, only to have that skill be obsolete the next year. It never feels that bad, though, because the replacements are almost always faster, easier, and get you better results, or else they don't really take off. It's the bittersweet nature of being in a field that's constantly innovating and improving. My mentor wanted me to take 3 years off residency to go to the States and learn a very special technique of experimental drug delivery. I didn't go. The technique was non-relevant a couple years later. Just curious, was it an inhaled insulin? It was a bong with Mountain Dew as the water. Well, that technique is still relevant in my world. We've moved on to Baja Blast, actually. I spent half my army career in various schools learning to repair nuclear missiles. Now I'm doing desktop support and teaching the new guys how to install printers remotely. If one of the new guys gets pissed off at a printer and launches it across the room, you can teach them how to fix it. Sorting and organizing my M3 collection. Fuck, the pain is real. Had to make it easy to find in Winham. It really whips the llama's ass. Endless hours adding it 3 tags. The amount of hours Googling, downloading and uploading album art to each track. Still think about when I scroll through Spotify. Spotify doesn't have half the shit I want to listen to, constantly changes versions of songs, and who knows how long it will be around for. Your knows how long it will be around for. Your nest as long as you do. Pasting a comment I made some time ago. You're right. Only physical media if there is something you really like. Be it movie, game, album, anything at all. There is no guarantee about any platform, and the companies do not care about preserving those two. There's loads of media just lost to the air like that. That's the only reason I pirated in a separate hard disk The Office, Frasier, Band of Brothers, Parks and Recs, and a few more of my fave shows. And a few more of my fave shows. I'm not going to be at the mercy of streaming companies if they decide to remove a show. I realized this after I saw a Roomba on Reddit, which can be disabled by the company. It sucks so much that we have printers which can be disabled by the company. Shows or songs disappearing with me, having no way to see them now, when that was the entire reason I bought that service. Just pirate everything with no shame now, or buy physical media. Out of the loop here. What has happened that made this a waste? I get that streaming services are available now, but your existing M3 collection is still listenable unless you've lost it. Indigenous knotting. I used to be able to make the most beautiful dresses, armors and regalia using traditional knotting and beading techniques. Broke my arm about a decade ago, got fat and got arthritis. Now my hands don't even work well enough to teach the next generation how to do it. I do beadwork. Very, very poorly. But I do it. As I've learned how to do it, I've learned there is going to be next to no reason if I'm never better than now. I've never even finished a piece. Why I keep doing it, that's another whole generation down that my ancestors made before our bloodline stopped beading. My dad taught me. My aunt taught him. My grandma taught him. My grandma taught my aunt. I can teach my kids, and they may absolutely suck too. But that's another generation down that we weren't extinguished. I feel proud knowing what my great-grandpa went through in the residential schools, that even though our language is next to lost, we still have something passing down. I'm ass at beading. Me and my dad have both never completed a piece. But my dad made me by beading piece, and he got my grandma's. That itself serves a purpose to me. Don't think of it as lost. Think of it as another generation forward. Do you have any pictures of your work? I'm curious to see. It sounds fascinating. Wow. I haven't talked to any of my old guildmates in years. I got server first kills and worked my ass off to be the top of my game, and it means next to nothing. I look back on the time I spent fondly and wouldn't trade the experience for anything. But it really does nothing for me. Glad to see this. I was coming out to say it. Although I quit smoking cigarettes the day I started, wow, and I'm currently sitting on 15 years sober as of 88, so it wasn't a waste for me, really. And lots of my guild mates are on my, filled mates are on my, and I do have some great memories. Edit, quit date and day I started, wow, 8,808, not a progression number. Asian parent piano lessons. Didn't make them happy, didn't make myself happy, never got any good at it, gained no useful skills whatsoever for the several hundred hours per year, for multiple years spent practicing. Asian orchestra kids rise up. I faked my way through every concert. The only joy piano gave me was pointing out to my parents, 40 years later, that I've never touched a piano since they stopped forcing it on me. We always had a piano in our house growing up, but I was never given a lesson. I eventually learned to play in my late 20s and I love it. I wonder if I had been forced, if it would have killed my interest in it. It definitely has an effect. I love going fishing now, whenever I find the time, but when I was a kid, being forced to sit by a rancid lakeside, doing nothing, I hated it. And once I was old enough, stopped fishing for about 10-15 years. My brother has a good way to take kids fishing. He brings tons of snacks, keeps it short and exciting. The second he senses the kids starting to lose interest, they go home. The kids are always excited to go fishing now. I've heard this exact response from my various Asian friends. Most refuse to play anymore. Won't refuse to own a piano. Pets, resentment. Reddit. My primary source of entertainment. BH. I stay completely away from the vile areas of Reddit and Quora. And Redditors have made me laugh harder than any joke, movie, play I've ever seen. There are some brilliantly funny people that post here. And quick. I got an aviation degree because it used to be the only way you could qualify to become an air traffic controller. The age cut off is 30 and I graduated when I was 29. Well, they decided to restructure the hiring process mere months after I graduated and cancelled all hiring panels for 2 years. I aged out and now have a fucking useless degree that I still pay students loans on. Edit. First, thank you for the huge response. This happened about 11 years ago. I am making a lot of money doing something I love in another industry, so don't worry about me. It was devastating at the time, but I'm content in what I'm doing now. Had to edit that again because of all the people who are negative about hearing everything happens for a reason and living my best life. I'm happy and successful, and if you can't live with that, go be negative somewhere else. To answer the most common question on here, why is 30 the cut-off age? This is a very high-stress job that requires you to have a sharp mind at all times. It's like playing a mathematical puzzle that kills 300 people if you fuck up. They offer encourage retirement with pension at 55, but you need 25 years of service to be eligible. Hence the oldest you can be to start the job is 30 years old. This is so painful, I'm sorry. That's a strange one cause I'm 28 now, and I'd have to say my mind is more set on work now. I didn't give a fuck about anything even 5 years ago. There are other jobs in the fire that might make use of that degree. I took 2 years of French instead of Spanish in high school. I live in Texas. I live in Massachusetts, and I still should have taken Spanish instead of French. But at least whenever I go up to Montreal, I can order my food in my terrible French and show everyone I'm an American immediately. Same here. My favorite was when I was in Paris and I ordered in French and the waiter just responded in English. His unstated but understood point. This is going to go much easier if we both stop pretending you can speak French. Touch. I live in the Southwest now and Spanish would have been much more useful. I was emailing with a French company regarding potential partnerships, and around the time of the 5th exchange, they said that they agreed with the general terms and we should now switch to English to negotiate the final contract term. 100%. We spent a year in Paris. My wife and kids were furiously studying French in the lead-up, like for 2 years, and I meant to get around to it, but didn't. I was there, and otherwise just going to be a tourist, so no pressure on me. Pretty much everyone spoke English far better than we spoke French. In the end, I barely spoke anything but English while in the city. The French seemed particularly unwilling to hear their language mangled. I'm French-Canadian, and they were responding to me in English in Paris. I was like, the fuck? Shouldn't that be le fuck? Ha! I got one up on both of you. I took Latin. I did 3 years of Latin at school, and my only regret is I didn't take it further. When you are studying modern languages, it's such a great shortcut to building an understanding. I took Latin. I loved it. My dad said once, "Yay, it's just like you to enjoy something absolutely useless." It wasn't useless at all. It's fascinating to me. I still try to self-teach now to keep on top of it. You never know when a heated debate in Latin could break out. Or you're in an epic adventure and are trapped in a chamber quickly filling with sand, and you must translate from Latin to escape. I took German for 6 semesters in high school. I've used it 0 times since then. It's been over 25 years. I really don't remember anything. RuneScape, but it's been pointless since day one. My friend just 99'd every skill on Iron Man. Unbelievable waste of time. Unbelievable waste of time. You have no idea how amazing it feels. For at least 10 minutes? What do you mean, waste of time? Now he can play the game. When I was 20, I got a job at an up-and-coming tech company. 6 months later, they went EPO in a big way, and I was worth $2 on paper. 6 months later, the market crashed and the stock tanked, before I was legally allowed to touch the share. I read a profile in Wired years ago about some 20-something kid who was a zillionaire on paper. He personally owned the oil business. Come back when Earls were the hotness, he was offered $400 million for the Earl and turned it down. Then Teach crashed, his company burned, and he was literally flipping burgers riding out the shareholder suit. I managed to accidentally wipe the drive that held all my work. I'm a semi-professional game dev. There was 10 years worth of meshes, materials and code. It's been 10 days. I've just been in a sort of state of shock, having tried and failed to recover the lost file. Everyone who reads this. Spindles, I'm so sorry to hear this edit. Thank you for the gold. And remember the 3-2-1 rule. 3 backups, 2 formats, 1 offsite. 2 formats. I have 3 drives and keep 1 offsite. But what do you mean by formats? I'm just a dude that doesn't want to lose pictures and home videos, so maybe that's more of a work thing? Like DVD, external drive, cloud storage. I've been through several major floods and a house fire. Every bit of evidence of my childhood is gone. I also had a situation similar to the above commenter, where my entire portfolio of writing was lost. Now I'm vigilant about backing up anything that matters. Yeah, the dumb thing is, the last thing I was thinking of before going to bed the night before was I must back my work drive up before I upgrade. Oh my fuck. I've worked on tabletop games off and on over the last 30 years. I tend to hold on to everything like rough concepts, writing fragments, etc., and go back to them constantly to revisit ideas, etc. Most of my stuff is hard copy, notes, sketches, etc., but I've lost some stuff I backed up over the years and still get sad over some of it. The drive, what the fuck? You're a developer and you had critical data stored on one singular drive? Being a decent, hard-working employee for a large multinational corporation. Everyone is replaceable, even me, my boss, co-founder. I made that mistake once. It took me 3 years to realize it had no future, then I left. It could have been worse, I guess. The pay was bad, the workload insane, and every single management position that opened they hired from outside the company. There was no motivation whatsoever to stay there. I have a bachelor's degree in astronomy from one of the world's best universities. I now work as a software engineer. I have a master's in molecular biology and work as a pisserman. Got my bachelor's in molecular biology, saw the field, ended up getting a second bachelor's in mechanical engineering low. Masters in archaeology, checking in. Nearing the end of my fade in astrophysics. I have the passion but not the drive or the lifestyle to continue with academia, so I'm almost certainly going to end up as a data scientist or software developer. Fade in astrophysics here. I also ended up as data scientist. Better than regular, it job because of the data modeling and statistics. Still, solving retailer problems will never compare to learning about the universe. I spent over a decade learning how to draw, studying design techniques, etc. Tried to work as a professional designer and illustrator, and it was terrible and made no money. Now I'm a software developer. Every once in a blue moon, it's useful for making graphics, but really just pointless. I'm an engineer. We're not exactly known for our artistic inclinations, lol. But we do use figures and sketches a lot to convey ideas. Most of us do fine with our chicken scratch diagrams during meetings, but I had one boss who was at a whole other level. He could draw clear, neat, isometric views of things, upside down, so that the person sitting across the table from him could see it. It didn't exactly make him elite, but it sure did help with communications, his idea. 10 years is a lifetime. Drawing is an amazing skill. Every N-bar took 13. Sanskrit lessons in school. Not once have I used that language since I gave my 10th exam. Do hip-hop music, but in Sanskrit. Make it a thing. Bringing back this script. I worked in high tech for 40-ish years. Almost everything I learned became obsolete. It's a treadmill. My marriage. The leading cause of divorce is marriage. The statistics are staggering. A record 100% of divorces begin with marriage. Something to think about. Yep, put in 30 years, and then she died. It's like being a millionaire in a currency from a country that no longer exists. I, too, am a widower. 27 years in the company of the love of my life. She's still here in my heart, though. The currency can still be good, depending upon where you're located. My patty. It's fucking worthless and I'm done with academia. Now I work in a corp, mindlessly filling Excel spreadsheets for twice the money I was paid, and I've never been happier in my entire life. Edit. I've got H in STEM. Still, it's fucking worthless cause nobody is hiring out here and I don't have some crucial skills to move abroad and get a decent job. I'm sick of working overtime for free deans' stupid policies, falsifying results. I got a notification on LinkedIn that a financial core is opening new branch in my city. I applied for junior data analyst, but honestly, all I do is filling Excel spreadsheets, making bar charts and reporting anything unusual. I can't tell you it gets any easier. I just become more used to her absence. It's been 3 years this past June. I'm not doing well without her. I can still hear her voice. I hope that you may find comfort as I do that no one ever wanted to leave. They weren't given a choice. We love them, and they love us. In the 90s, my brother worked as fire watcher in Minnesota near the border. He lived in some remote location. Power, but no phone. They cached his supplies for several months. Then nothing. Half-starved, he finally came out of the woods to see what was what. He'd been laid off. No one told him. No money in his account. Everybody was laid off and gone. Office, dark. Marriage. 32 years together. Knife in the back. God damn. I hope you get your groove back and live more happily than you ever thought possible. I was a Jehovah's Witness for 30 years, average of 15 hours a month, knocking on doors, preaching Armageddon that never will come. Free for 23 years now. Good for you. My mom left that church at 18 and never looked back. Religious trauma is no fucking joke. Prepping, if nothing apocalyptic ever happens. All my prepper friends can't cook. Invest time in cooking, preparing food, smoking and grilling. It will not be wasted time, and if you ever need to cook without electricity, you'll be the king. I watched a prepper show and saw their bunker, and we can feed 120 people for 6 months with what we have down here. Me with 2 decades of cooking experience, not with that electric 4-burner you're not. I can't believe I've scrolled this far and not seen Facebook yet. People lived their lives on there until suddenly nobody did. Art. I used to draw multiple hours almost every day. It didn't go anywhere, unfortunately, and my skill level was not that high, to put it mildly. Did you enjoy it? Because in the end, that's what matters. I'm an artist, pretty good. I've made a living doing illustration and design work. But I'm not a top-tier talent by any means. But I still enjoy what I do for myself, even if I no longer try to make a living from it. Currently having fun doing painting of Lovecraftian abominations. Self-development books, psychology books and biographies to find out what the fuck is wrong with me. One 30-second information video about Adi changed my life. The clouds parted. I'm now on medication and living the life I wanted to create for myself by taking a simple pill every morning. It took 37 years, but I'm now the person I felt was locked in there since I was a child. I'm so happy I could cry. Well, almost. I still haven't cracked the code on that one, but I'm pretty damned happy. Not to mention a better husband, father, and worker. Edit. The TikTok video in question just made me curious about it. It basically said, hello, you're probably seeing this because the algorithm thinks you have ad hadal for more. I scoffed because I thought ACT was something completely different, but I checked the channel out. There was this doctor, I think, listing signs and symptoms of ACT. The videos made me curious enough to learn more about ACT, so I took some online tests and read a little about it before contacting my doctor, get a proper diagnosis. I can't find the video itself. I deleted TikTok a long time ago. Edit 2. If you suspect having ACT, please get a medical professional's opinion. Do not self-diagnose. Tip: do a little research on your own beforehand and make a list of the things you have problems with in life that you think can be traced to ACT. It makes the doctor or psychologist's job easier and might speed up the process. It could be things like not being able to hold a job, pay bills on time, stay in relationships, blowing money on new hobbies every month, not being able to study, lack of impulse control, and a lot more. There is a lot of different types of ACT. It's a spectre. You can also have ACT traits without having enough of them to get a diagnosis.